Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach talking to you a little bit about the upcoming WrestleMania 32 this week with the Stone Cold versus Brock Lesnar podcast on the WWE Network after Monday Night Raw. We saw that Stone Cold Steve Austin's Twitter prophecies of him not wrestling at WrestleMania 32 were true. There was a lot of people out there hoping that something was going to be happening with Austin. Maybe Austin would wrestle Brock Lesnar, but nothing came to be. Basically, we could tell from that podcast that Austin more than likely will have little to a very small something to do with WrestleMania 32 in Dallas this year, and that just about every match that was fantasy booked when it was announced that WrestleMania 32 would be going to Dallas at AT&T Stadium there where the Dallas Cowboys play, whether if it's Shawn Michaels, Daniel versus Daniel Bryan, whether it was Sting versus Undertaker, just about every match that you can hope for, is not going to be happening. WWE is mainly going to be relying heavily on the current WWE roster to fill out WrestleMania 32. Some people might think that's a good thing. Some people might think that's a bad thing. If you watch the WWE 24 documentary on the NXT TakeOver Brooklyn special, it had a lot to do with more than just that show for NXT. It had to do a lot with what NXT is and what they're really building down there. And Triple H was very proud to announce that if you looked at every match on WrestleMania 31, it involved someone that came through the NXT foundation, whether if that was Roman Reigns wrestling in the main event, whether if it was Seth Rollins cashing in, whether if it was on the tag team pre-show. Every match had someone that came through NXT, and you could see that the foundation of NXT and what NXT is supposed to be as sort of the minor leagues of WWE, building the superstars of tomorrow, that it is working. There's a lot of people who feel that NXT should actually have a match on WrestleMania, to sort of put it there. Honestly, in my opinion, if you're not watching NXT and you are subscribed to the WWE Network, I honestly feel as if you are getting ripped off. I feel that if NXT, with its Wednesday 1-hour shows, is probably the best WWE television show that is being put on. It's better than Raw. It's better than SmackDown. There's a lot of pluses that go along with it. One is that there's no real commercials that really go on there. There's sort of network plugs that are pitched in during the thing. It's only 1 hour. When the show is over, you don't feel like you need to go take a nap. Halfway through the show, you don't feel like that you just need to turn it off because there's no more that you can handle. It's a lot of action. The storylines are great. That are not hard to follow. The roster isn't that big. The guys get lost in the shuffle. Normally when people get put on television on NXT, they're going to be there for a good little while. Some guys do get shuffled in and some guys do get shuffled out. One of my favorite guys that's in NXT right now, I've been following since he was wrestling and I guess you can say jobber matches. I first saw Gable wrestle against Tyler Breeze. I believe that was back in January or maybe even late December of last year, and I knew that this guy was going to be something special. I kept waiting to see this guy pop up yet once again, and now he's got this real tag team going again, and I think that he's going to be a really big star for NXT, and I hope it transitions into making it on the big roster. I think that maybe Gable's just a little bit smaller than he needs to be, but I think that honestly, his wrestling background, if they really get into it and WWE ditches this big guy mentality that Vince McMahon has always had, I think that we could really be moving towards something with a lot of these guys that they have on the main roster already, and just sort of you can do the David versus the Goliath match every once in a while and get away with it, but just getting to the point where guys are wrestling against guys and it's great matches, and that's really what it comes down to. I mean, that's really what PWG, that's really what ROH, those are built around. It's not really built around heights or anything else like that. Guys have gotten through there and made a lot of money for those companies, and they haven't been the Vince McMahon monsters that there are. A lot of people think that NXT should have a match on the WrestleMania show. Honestly, in my opinion, I think that NXT runs its own show WrestleMania weekend. It's going to be held at the Kay Bailey Hutchinson Convention Center, which is where Access is going to be as well. They had their own show. Honestly, WrestleMania 31, the show to be at was the NXT show, which I think was held on Thursday night. I'm not 100% sure. It might have been on Friday. All I can tell you is that I wasn't there. I had bought a ticket to Ring of Honor, and we felt like it was too much work to be able to make sure that we sell our Ring of Honor tickets, to buy NXT tickets, and still be able to attend the show. Ring of Honor, going to that show, I honestly can't remember a lot from that show, but it was fun. I can remember chanting Moose. I remember Samoa Joe was there. Jushin Thunder Liger was there. I remember that I saw a guy wrestle for the very first time that I thought was really good. But honestly, I've forgotten his name and I haven't watched him wrestle since. But if I see him again, I'm sure that he's going to catch my eye. And he's going to be really good. But honestly, if you put a show, or if you put a match on the WrestleMania show, I think it definitely it's going to take away from the WrestleMania NXT show. I think that that's its own special sort of deal. It's sort of treated like it's almost the minor leagues of wrestling, and I don't think that WWE wants NXT to be a real third brand like the ECW show was, where they have to really make sure that it's pumped full of guys. Right now it's really something special with Finn Balor on top, and then you've got guys like James Storm, you got guys like Samoa Joe. They're coming in there giving it some credibility from TNA. You've got guys like Johnny Moxley. No, not Johnny Moxley. Fuck me. Johnny Gargano. And you got Tommaso Ciampa coming in there. Giving it sort of that indie cred where it's almost like anybody can show up at any time. But at the same time, you're still building your own stars like Dana Brooke, and being able to build people for tomorrow. Who knows if James Storm, Samoa Joe, if they're ever going to make the main roster. For Gargano, for Tommaso Ciampa, I think that honestly anything's possible with these guys. I think that if WWE wants these guys on the main roster and they can see that they really can wrestle and people are entertained by them, I think that they really could do it. But, if you're going to put a match on WrestleMania from NXT, it has to be, a big-time feud. It has to be something that they've really pumped into a lot of time, much like the Beast in the East show, where they did Kevin Owens versus Finn Balor for the NXT Championship, and that's where they ended up doing the title change. They built that all up about, Finn Balor came to NXT from New Japan Wrestling, so it was like he was going home, basically, even though he's from Ireland, to win the title and bring it back to NXT. And that was a really cool deal. But you could tell that, by it not going on last, even though it was the tag team match, that it was John Cena and Dolph Ziggler going up against Kane and Wade Barrett in a match that nobody cared about, that NXT is not the deal. I mean, if you watched Monday Night Raw, they built up the Beast in the East show as watch Brock Lesnar wrestle. That wasn't the main event. If you watch NXT, they made it seem like the Finn Balor versus Samoa Joe match, even though it was called Beast in the East, that was the only match that mattered. So I think that honestly, when it comes to WWE, they make it to the point where NXT is there if you want to watch it, but it's not must-see television. You got guys like Tyler Breeze debuting this week on SmackDown, showing you that if you want to see the superstar of tomorrow today, you can go over there and you can watch it. But if you put a match on WrestleMania, it takes away from the NXT show. I like the fact that if you went to Access last year on Thursday, you were able to see a tournament of matches that included, I believe it was Tyler Breeze, Finn Balor, Hideo Itami, and one more guy. I can't remember who the fourth guy was, but there was these three matches, and Hideo Itami ended up winning the tournament. From there, he went on and he wrestled at WrestleMania 31 in the pre-show, and he didn't win. He got dumped. They made a very good documentary about the fact of Itami going to his first WrestleMania, it ended up not being his main roster debut. It just was him wrestling at WrestleMania on the pre-show. I think that was honestly a good gimmick to get you into WrestleMania, that sort of puts on NXT television as a way to show that, NXT does matter in the grand scheme of things. If they do that again, I think that it'll be fun. You don't have to have the guy win. NXT, I think, is not supposed to be the third brand for WWE. I think that it's supposed to be an alternative, that if you want to watch it, you can. And that's one way for NXT and WWE to be making more money. But I don't think they want it to be like ECW was. I don't think they want to take away from that NXT show that they run WrestleMania weekend, where you don't have a guy like Finn Balor wrestle because they're on WrestleMania. I think you want to have all guns on deck to make sure that that NXT show really knocks it out of the park, so the people that want to see it and the people that pay their money for it are getting their money's worth. So I don't think NXT will have their own match on WrestleMania. I think that if you go to WrestleMania, I think that even more than likely this year, especially after what happened, I don't think they can show it live, because I don't think they want to put too much wrestling on that weekend, because you have WrestleMania, which is going to be a 4-hour show the next day. But I think that definitely people would watch it if they do an NXT TakeOver special from WrestleMania. You know that there's going to be high expectations for it. But if it's just a house show, you definitely want to make sure that it's great. And it's something that people really remember, because people pay a lot of money to go to WrestleMania and have it be a big one. So that's my thoughts. We'll see what happens. Maybe one day NXT will have a match at WrestleMania, but I don't think that it should be this year.